전 세계 스타트업의 성지, 이곳 실리콘밸리에서는 어떤 기관이 스타트업을 지원하고 있을까요? 인스타그램과 그래머리가 거쳐간 회사, 마인드더브릿지의 마르코마리누치 대표를 만나봤습니다. 구글 출신의 대표님은 2007년 마인드더브릿지를 창업하셨습니다. 대표님의 이력과 창업 스토리가 궁금합니다.
Yes, so I'm an engineer by training. I studied in Italy, where I ended up actually studying AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics, but a different generation ago when there was real long time research. And then I started in the world of the dot-com economy in the 90s, in the version that landed in Europe, so softer than US, but still interesting. And that took me to 3 different startups at the time, and the last one that we had was based in the south of France, and I came here in 2001 doing fundraising as a lot of other entrepreneurs. And as often happens, I got stuck here for the last 24 years. So was lucky enough then to sold the company at the time. I started with this interesting startup that had a funky name but looked to be pretty with high potential. It was called Google. And I spent 8 years at Google during the expansion, during the phase of the scale up of Google here from the headquarters. But at my second year at Google, that's when I started this. And I started this Ma인드더브릿지 initially as a not-for-profit foundation, and really with the idea of basically recreating the opportunity that I had by serendipity, but in a way that was more structural.
인스타그램 혹은 그래머리가 사업 초창기에 MTV 사옥을 거쳐갔다고 하는데요. 이런 내용을 좀 소개를 해주신다면.
Yes. So one of our main activity that is very important to do here, but also in other places where we have other hubs around the world, in Barcelona, including in Korea now, in New York and in Israel, is to be a connector, right? Mind the bridge is a connection. Also, sometimes the container of activities are relevant in an innovation economy. And so while, our business is not of a co-working space, because we're totally different, but I think it's important to be able also to create a community that is selected and where opportunity then eventually happens, even if you don't plan it. And so that's something that here in San Francisco is naturally of a high level, because among the companies then you end up hosting, many of them become really famous. And so the Instagram, the Grammarly story is very interesting because it started here in our space when there were 10, 15 people at the most. In fact, actually, Grammarly is now, it was already separate, interesting story, but Instagram was actually literally a small team when it got acquired. And so that creates, I think, that feeling that things are happening and potentials are real. So not just what you read on a newspaper, but you see it because the person that is sitting next door to you is achieving a great success. And so that's super inspirational for also the other entrepreneurs. They end up, to some extent, interacting with us, whether that's through the space or through some of the acceleration programs that we do, or through some of the events that we do here. We do 20 events per week, but it's important to create that successful community.
그러면은 진짜 제일 궁금했던 거긴 한데, 미국 스타트업 업계에서 주목하는 스타트업 섹터가 어디인지 한번 물어보겠습니다.
And this one in particular, obviously Silicon Valley is the one that is closer to us, is also by history the one ecosystem where the trends are the one that the rest of the world will follow, right? Maybe by 5 or 6 years. So without going into too much in details, I'm happy actually to give you maybe one slide that would give you a visual sense of how this is changing. But while the world of investments in Silicon Valley has had a peak during COVID, 2021, 2022, in terms of total investment, then over the past few years had a gradual decrease for a number of reasons. Then if you overimpose over all these investments that happen, just the subset of generative AI investments, 2021 used to be 10%. the expected in 2025 is probably 80%. So you see these curves that go like this, right? And then the curve of generative AI investments is becoming a wave that I've never seen in 25 years here, and I've seen the waves of search engine, mobile, social, the wave of AI at the numbers in terms of capital deployed, but also of a changing of a community. Wave that started a year and a half ago. It's not like 10 years. And the numbers show clearly a picture that is an order of magnitude bigger than anything else. Even just now, OpenAI or XAI, the total amount of capital has been deployed just for that is bigger than the total amount of capital being deployed by full continents. Right? If you compare with Europe, for example, same amount. So this is something that is happening today, and what you see now is also throughout the lenses of our clients. It is interesting to see with the pulse of how quickly the market is changing, because as I said,
이제는 한국 이야기도 좀 들어보고 싶은데요. MTB가 진출하고자 하는 그 한국에서의 그 계획이 좀 궁금합니다.
So Korea is a very interesting use cases because again, being in Silicon Valley is a destination place for everybody that is excited about innovation. So every day we receive people coming from all over the world with the same reason, seeing where the technology is headed and what is next. And so we see small communities are local and some that are just coming and going. And the interesting thing with Korea is that we started 8-9 years ago a concentration of Korean companies coming, particularly with programs of in supporting of startups, but in a format that is much bigger than any other countries out here of similar sizes. So that's become, obviously now knowing the market is a lot of a strategic effort from government really to propose that, and we've been part of that on the receiving side. So we started working with some Korean programs really at the very beginning. At the beginning it was mostly Kotra that was supporting that big wave. What was behind it, and it was clear there was a strategic plan to really put innovation at a high priority, and also pushing companies and startups outside of their comfort zone. And so we're seeing a big improvement also in the ability of young entrepreneurs to be presenting at international level, right? So here, the bar is very high. Again, this is a receiving destination where the rest of the world play football, if we want to call it football, but at the highest level possible. And it's interesting to see how over the years, really the improvement of quality shows. And so that's something that we on the receiving side have been super excited. And over the years, we probably run or supported 3 or 4 projects, actually probably more like 4 or 5 accelerator programs per year. And so eventually we decided it was time to be a little bit more local. And so we had a little presence in Korea. And now we're at the stage where it's not just the acceleration of startups that we still do, right? The go-to-market strategy. But now the interesting part is also to bring some of our corporate clients closer to the ecosystem of research and development and startups really in Korea. And so that's the next phase that we're particularly excited about.
마르코 대표와의 오늘 인터뷰를 진행해 봤는데요. 함께 해주셔서 감사합니다. Thank you for your take the time.
Sure.